I am so excited for this episode of Breaking Through the Noise. Welcome, Kim Baker. Kim is the founder of the Vivid Performance Group and WTF, What the Feedback. And she is the author of the book also titled WTF, What the Feedback. Thank you for being here, Kim.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a pleasure.
So I am really jazzed about your book, and I genuinely mean it. It's not just because I had the pleasure of being on your book team, which it was an absolute pleasure working with you. But your book is such an unlock. It's one of those books that everybody who gets it kind of wishes they had read it decades ago. And
Yes.
it kind of pisses you off in the best way. Everybody needs a copy of this book for these moments in our personal lives and in our professional lives. So today, in terms of breaking through the noise, we're talking about some of the most challenging conversations human beings can have, which are moments when we have to give each other feedback and share something that isn't always going swell, as you would say, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And we're going to narrow in on one piece that's shared in the book, which there are many pieces. And please, everybody, check into the book. We will talk about that at the end. But Kim, talk us through this. Lead us into it. What piece are we focused on? And what are the little bits that we need to know, the basics, and then we'll dive in more.
Absolutely. So, a couple things to know that when it comes to feedback, there are two critical skills: giving productive feedback and then receiving it non-defensively. In the book, we start out talking about giving, then we move into the receiving. We do that as well with our courses. In terms of giving or receiving feedback, what they have in common is there's an ideal process. So, focusing in on the ideal process for giving feedback, 3 steps, 3 phases, if you will: the before, the during, the after. So, before I give feedback, during giving feedback, and then after giving feedback, right? So, following that process you can just be guaranteed that your feedback will land so much better. It'll be more clear. It will be much more constructive.
Maybe even act one out a little bit.
Okay.
And you give me like the coin
Mhm.
and like the best version of it and like a little like, ooh, something left on the table if we can.
Sure, sure,
Where,
sure.
okay, so, and I could even be, maybe even to just keep it easy, the
Yep.
person who sent that crazy Jiffy email.
Okay. Sounds
And
great.
you are my manager, and we
Yep.
have to figure this out.
Yep. Yep.
Because I think that some of the gold I have gleaned from this is just watching you shape the how it can be done best.
hmm
And some of the things you've already shared bring that to light, but just to bring it all the way through in a very clear example.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I am. I'm showing up.
Yeah. So, how about if I do the wrong coin
Yes,
and
do
then
it
do it
wrong way
better?
first.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, Catherine. Um, man, you really screwed the pooch with that email you sent. Uh, I don't know what you're thinking, but the board of directors is so pissed off that, they want me to fire you. Um, so I'm thinking that you wanted to be funny. But, what was going through your head? And how are you going to clean this mess up?
Ooh,
Oh,
well, yeah. I think I was just trying to share a little inside joke with a few people. I didn't realize it was going to go back to everyone.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. So how do you want to clean this mess up? I mean, I can save your job, but what do you want to do? What do you think you should
okay.
do?
Yep. Well, I mean, I would personally get on my like knees. So maybe send an email or show up in person to the said person who sent that email in the first place, the board member, um, and just let them know that I really missed the mark.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Okay, so we'll freeze. All right.
Yes.
So that coin I gave you, that is a very human response for the manager to think.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
let's be honest. Let's do human here. That's human. We just don't
Yes.
say it. I mean, I live and breathe this stuff. And there are times that even my head, like I catch myself and I laugh, like, okay, that's a really bad coin. It's just my human response. I don't say it, right?
Right.
When I run into a situation. Now, here's coin done
But what I
better.
saw, you
Oh,
had a lot of like your thoughts and your flavor and your emotion, your reaction to it, which I mean, like, as you just said, it's human of us to show up with that.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's really hard not to. But let's
Yeah.
see how it feels and looks
Yeah.
when you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, Catherine, I wanted to talk to you today about the email that you sent out, and I'm specifically referring to the reply all email that had the meme, and this, of course, is in regard to the board of directors, a mandate they sent down to us. Um, that meme, sending that out, it's had the impact of the board of directors have discussed now if you should be terminated, what kind of actions should be taken. And so I'm concerned for you. I believe that we can maintain your employment, but what I've noticed now is that it's damaged your reputation, certainly within, the hierarchy, and the whole organization saw it. Um, and I'm concerned for you because I know that you do a great job here at XYZ Company. I know you're a very valued employee, and I know that you are on the high potential track. So I'm concerned now what this has done for you in terms of your personal brand and what this might mean for moving forward as a high potential. Now, I want you to know that I believe in you and I want to support you. I am curious to know what was going on for you when you sent that company wide.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I thought it was only going to send to my few friends who already was starting a running joke about it.
Hmm.
And I'm very embarrassed and disappointed and really saddened by the impact.
Hmm.
And I'd love to do what I can to make amends, but I know that there's probably some stains that I can't get out of this one.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're realistic. This is going to stick with you for a while. I do support you. I think you're a tremendous value to the organization. And so I would like to work with you to see what we can't do. I mean, I'm talking about a concentrated, purposeful effort to
Mm,
kind of redeem your brand.
mm.
Um, is that something that you'd be interested in? Because I'm
Yes,
not pushing this
absolutely.
on you.
No,
Okay.
yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
All right. How
Hmm.
about if we reconvene? Because I'd like to give you some time to process the conversation. How about if we reconvene next Monday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and let's talk about some ideas that can be put into action, both what you'll do, and I want to talk about how I can support you. Let's talk about a timeline for those actions, and then let's make this something that we're going to make again as a project, so we'll have a cadence for follow-up. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All
Really great.
right.
Okay. Wow. Okay. This one, Kim, is so much more about me,
Yeah.
and and as a listener, I heard it so much clearer.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure listeners also felt that way. But I mean, I could hear the impact so clearly. So that's really cool to kind of witness as a play out.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, you still showed up as you showed emotion, but it wasn't about your emotion.
Mm-mm.
It was
No.
your concern and your connection to the issue, to me, to the impact at hand. So you're still very human, but it
Yeah.
wasn't about you. Very different. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I did there is, and if folks read the book and or take the course, what you'll recognize is that I pulled in the last couple steps in the ideal process during, right? So while we didn't agree upon actions to date and timelines for those actions and how we'll follow up, we said we're going to reconvene. Okay. We said we're going to reconvene on another date. And that made sense because I wanted, in this particular scenario, it makes a lot of sense to come back and revisit it, let somebody process it and really think it through, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so what we did is that we had a next step for when we'll meet. And what we'll do then is we will align on actions and a timeline for those actions, and then also how we'll follow up. So let's say though that we had come up with a couple of actions. We said, okay, well, Catherine, you're going to do this by this date. By the way, I don't dictate it. I would just say, Catherine, okay, what do you want to do? We would discuss it, and what are your ideas for dates, timelines, things like that. You and I would do that together, but it's really we want to have you drive that, right? Have that
Yeah.
ownership and accountability. And then I might say, okay, well, what should be our cadence for follow up, right? And then get that laid out, and then What comes next? It's the after the feedback. So we've already outlined what you're going to do by what date. That's the beautiful thing about coin is that it can be nuanced. Uh, but it's really important not to get things out of order. For instance, if I'm giving feedback for the first time, I don't want to go into just now I want to see you do this and this and this. We really want to have a dialogue because
Yeah.
in that way, when somebody is part of the solution, when they feel that they're heard, when they're coming up with ideas, they're much more likely, they're going to commit to it because now it's their words, right?
Yeah.
So, yep,
They're
it's the
engaged in the
beauty of coin.
solution. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I love coin. What can we do to really leverage the power of the COIN?
So, number one is you want to script it out ahead of time. Don't wing it. Although I will tell you, in the moment, I've known of coin to be used very, very, very well because it is such a great framework. Like when a manager or maybe a peer or somebody needed to step in,
Sure, and you
immediately.
don't expect to,
Exactly.
but you can still like coin. Okay, let's try.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. So number one, script it out, right? And you want to be as clean with your language as possible. So when I say clean, what I mean is keep it down to as few words as possible. Um, a coin, you are not creating some literary great. We're not, do not go for any kind of creative writing. I mean, it really needs to be just the facts, Jack. This meeting on this date, we were talking about this topic. Like, your coin should actually be pretty boring when it comes to creativity, right?
Mm,
Why is that? Well, we don't want to confuse people with all kinds of different words. And, the more words there are, the more things that can be interpreted or misinterpreted. Again, now leave out the adjectives,
yeah.
leave out the adverbs. Um, so the context, very
To
clean,
just
very crisp. Yeah,
to dive into that, what you're pretty much saying when leaving out the adjectives is we don't need to hear about how you, the giver, feels, right?
yeah,
And we're just
exactly.
trying to focus on the clarity of what you're trying to share with them about what you watched occur and
Hmm.
the impact it had.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's all about clarity with this.
Yes, yes. And in our course, one of the things that we provide people with is a cheat sheet, how to fail at feedback fast.
Okay.
And because people will pay attention to that title, right? And it's
Mhm.
all in red. And we talk about red flag words and phrases and things to stay away from. The always and never. You
Mm,
always this, you never that. You'll have a much more collaborative dialogue, and it's much more likely that that receiver will collaborate with you, will act on it, and whatever outcome you're looking for, much more likely that you're going to achieve that. Now, within those three phases, I don't think anybody would be surprised to know that it's the giving feedback that is most sticky, it's most anxiety producing, and it's really that that keeps people from giving feedback, right? So, what we did is while we laid out six-ish steps, really six-ish steps and two critical things to be mindful of. We took those and condensed it into a framework, and it's called COIN, right? So if you think about, coin of the realm, COIN. Now, what does COIN stand for? C is for context, O is for observation, I is for impact, and N is for next or now. All right, so context. You're providing somebody just brief context. Maybe you're referring to a meeting that was held. Maybe you're referring to a software implementation project. Just give them that context. O is for observation. What did you observe? Okay, here is what is so critical. We're talking about behaviors, we're talking about actions.
yes.
How can you, pro tip here, right? It's not even really a pro tip, it's a must know, must do. When you think about behaviors or actions, if you can't see it on video or hear it on audio, it's not a behavior, it's not an action. So somebody is not behaving, let's say disrespectful. That's actually not a behavior. There could be things that somebody did, they said, their body language, something like that that you might interpret as disrespectful. But there's not a behavior specifically that is just discreetly disrespectful, right? So getting really, really clear on that. Pro tip, keep out adjectives, keep out adverbs, just focusing on the behavior. During the software implementation meeting, you said, you did, or I noticed that your proposals have been arriving past the deadline, right? I mean, I think we'd all agree, as I said those things, you could conjure up seeing that, right? Painting that
Mhm.
picture. Impact. Okay, if there's one thing that you forget that will really wreck your feedback, it is the impact. So the impact, what you're doing is you're connecting the outcome or the impact of what you observed, right? Now, I want everybody to think about impact in basically three levels, if you will. The impact to that individual, maybe an impact to the team, or maybe impact to results. And when you think about team, you might also think about organization, but think about the individual, think about results, think about impact to a team or organization. Now, why is the impact so important? Because that's a so what of your feedback.
Yes.
So what? So what I did this? So what I didn't do that? So what? We have to give people a so what. Why is that? Because the so what is their reason to change. Catherine, you're going to change for your reasons. I'll change for mine. And we don't know that about an individual, right? So when we provide the impact, now this has to be true, right? It has to
Mhm.
be legit. Provide as many impacts as possible, again, in a very neutral, non-emotional way, um, so that they can determine for themselves what will matter to them. Because again, they're going to change for their reason. Maybe somebody will, I've seen people really care about an impact because what was happening could prevent them from being promoted, because it could harm their relationships. And they were somebody who really, really valued relationships. I've seen it happen where somebody was looking at making a lateral move, but it was one that they needed to get on the resume as they were climbing the ranks, right? So again, and then some people, man, oh gosh, knowing that I impacted the team or a client, wow. Okay. So again, if you miss that impact piece, and I've seen it happen in our learning lab as people are practicing, I've seen it happen in the wild. When I say in the wild, I mean in the workplace, because gosh darn, it feels wild sometimes,
Yes,
doesn't
it
it?
is.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you miss that impact, the conversation goes nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a
it just
juice.
goes nowhere.
Hmm.
And then N is for now or next. This is where, certainly in the first time that you are giving feedback, this is where you're now moving into, it might sound something like, with all that I've said, or given all that I've said, what is your perspective on missing the deadline, let's say, or that the report had the inaccuracies in it, right?
Hmm.
So something like that. Um, when you see our ideal process for giving feedback, it is that it can be nuanced, certainly, because if I gave feedback to a peer, well, yeah, I may have some ideas of what they could do, to change things up. I certainly, not being their boss, cannot dictate, or have an opinion that you must change it and maybe, you must do it this way or that way. So that N piece is always, you could also think N for nuance, because if I'm giving feedback for the first time to a direct report, I want to move into a discussion. I want to get their perspective. Do they think that do they think there's anything wrong with missing a deadline? Do they think that 10 inaccuracies, is something to be, aware of and look to change? I mean, first of all, do they even see a need to change, right? And then again, that's what we observed and the impact. And do they think that there's a need to change? And then we talk about solutions, right? Now, as you learn in the feedback process, part of the preparation, as certainly if I'm a manager, I want to have a couple ideas for some solutions too, because then we can collaborate.
There are so many other layers to bring in. And just for everybody listening, there's this in reverse, the ideal process for when you're receiving
Mhm.
feedback, whether anticipated, but when is it actually anticipated? Not usually. So in the moment. And so many of those gems and jewels are a part of the book.